beat. Different day, same place. This is time of hard bass. Feet stomping, fingers up, bass louder than the clap. Do not let the music stop. Stomping to the bassline drop. Drop, 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 drop. Feet stomping, fingers up, bass louder than the clap. Volume high cannot drop. Hard bass party never stop. Generation hard bass. Generation hard bass. Hard bass.
Making soup very easy. Add water, set to boil. Add salt from the sea. Let it cook till not need oil. Making soup very easy. Add water, set to boil. Add salt from the sea. Let it cook till not need oil. Once upon a time, Boris started making soup, but he forgot the ingredient that he will never forget again. And
Roll
what
up,
is
roll
missing?
up.
The bay leaf.
Flight controls.
Oh, yeah.
Flight controls.
The bay leaf. Yeah, nice. The bay leaf. Is the meat? Of course it's meat. Make you grow big and strong. Is the meat? Of course it's meat. What you think is it? A drink? Is the meat? Of course it's meat. Make you grow big and strong. Salt, pepper, sure. What you think is it? Carrot, potato. Carrot, potato. Carrot, potato. What you think is it? Ой, мама will be proud. Sorry, бабушка. It's only business. What is mission? The bay leaf. What is mission? It's the bay leaf. Mama, soup ready! The bay leaf. What is mission? Soup is ready. What? Plan. Course. What? Plan. Course. What? Plan. Course. What is mission? The bay leaf. Балалайка. Freezing winter night. Accordion plays strong. Russian wind
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, stop here. Before we get started, we need to be able to gauge our distance from the ground very accurately, so let's change our altimeter to radar mode by flipping the switch just below the UFC from Barrow to RDR. Understand that this is still just a rough estimate, as the ground will be rolling up and down below you, but we need AGL references, and the radar altimeter is the only way to do that. The sequence of events for the pattern will be as follows. Take off from the runway as we did in the last lesson using full mill power. This simulates using full thrust to recover from a failed carrier landing attempt. Climb to an altitude of 600 foot AGL and bring your airspeed to around 350 knots. At about a mile from the airfield, reduce throttle to idle and
What's up,
execute
Mario?
a steep turn to the left. Keep the velocity vector on the horizon.
You missed me
and keep
turning your plane
G-meter
on.
between 2.5 and 3 G at first, then slowly allow it to taper off as you near the end of the turn. About halfway through the turn, your airspeed should be below 250 knots, so lower your landing gear and flaps. Once you reach a heading of 310, level off and work on getting your velocity vector aligned with the E-bracket, just like we did for landing in the last lesson. Remember to keep the velocity vector on the horizon with pitch trim and bring the E-bracket down to it with throttle adjustments. The E-bracket chases the velocity vector, not the other way around. I'll notify you when it's time to turn for your final approach. Just focus on getting on the proper downwind and setting up your aircraft for landing. When you're ready, taxi out onto the runway and begin your takeoff. You're about a mile from the runway, so go ahead and reduce throttle to idle and execute a steep left turn, pulling back sharply on the stick and doing your best to keep the velocity vector lined up with the horizon. You're aiming for about 3 Gs followed by a gradual reduction in stick pressure to allow the Gs to slowly reduce, and eventually shallowing your turn until you roll out on the reciprocal. You should be about halfway through your turn at this point. Don't forget to lower your flaps and landing gear once your airspeed is below 250 knots. Level out at a heading of 310 and get your aircraft stabilized with the velocity vector on the horizon.
I know, right?
You're a little left of the optimal
I'm still wearing my work
downwind
gloves.
trajectory. Adjust to the right until you're about a mile from the runway. Keep your velocity vector on the horizon with pitch trim and bring the E-bracket down to it with throttle adjustments. Try to keep the aircraft at around 600 foot AGL. At about this point in a carrier landing, you'd be able to see the stern of the ship. This is where you would normally begin a 30-degree descending turn to the left, but if you need a bit more wiggle room, feel free to continue further out before you begin. Once you start turning, add some power to compensate for the loss of lift and try to keep the velocity vector just below the horizon. Remember that the stick should only be used for roll adjustments. Pitch is controlled with the throttle during landing. Keep your eyes fixed on the HUD for the first 90 degrees of the turn to ensure you're establishing a good turn. After, you should be about halfway through your turn by now, so take a quick peek at the runway and start making adjustments to line up with the center line. Once you're lined up, focus on placing your velocity vector and E-bracket on the runway numbers. You should be making constant throttle adjustments all the way to touchdown to keep the velocity vector on the sweet spot. If your throttle hand stops moving, you're doing it wrong. You should be adjusting the range of throttle motion fore or aft depending on whether you need to move the velocity vector up or down. Failure to keep the throttle moving will likely result in getting behind the aircraft, a bad situation. For the purposes of this lesson, a good landing is anything close to the numbers.
Oh, bro.
You would have
I
missed the carrier on
fucked
that
up.
one.
Yeah, no shit.
Let's go around and try again.
What the fuck is going on? The pitch is all screwy.
You're about a mile from the runway, so go ahead and reduce throttle to idle and execute a steep left turn, pulling back sharply on the stick and doing your best to keep the velocity vector lined up with the horizon. You're aiming for about 3 Gs followed by a gradual reduction in stick pressure to allow the Gs to slowly reduce, and eventually shallowing your turn until you roll out on the reciprocal heading of 310. You should be about halfway through your turn at this point. Don't forget to lower your flaps and landing gear once your airspeed is below 250 knots. Level out at a heading of 310 and get your aircraft stabilized with the velocity vector on the horizon. You're a little left of the optimal downwind trajectory. Adjust to the right until you're about a mile from the runway. Keep your velocity vector on the horizon with pitch trim and bring the E-bracket down to it with throttle adjustments. Try to keep the aircraft at around 600 foot AGL. At about this point in a carrier landing, you'd be able to see the stern of the ship. This is where you would normally begin a 30-degree descending turn to the left, but if you need a bit more wiggle room, feel free to continue further out before you begin. Once you start turning, add some power to compensate for the loss of lift and try to keep the velocity vector just below the horizon. Remember that the stick should only be used for roll adjustments. Pitch is controlled with the throttle during landing. Keep your eyes fixed on the HUD for the... You should be about halfway through your turn by now, so take a quick peek at the runway and start making adjustments to line up with the center line. Once you're lined up, focus on placing your velocity vector and E-bracket on the runway numbers. You should be making constant throttle adjustments all the way to touchdown to keep the velocity vector on the sweet spot. If your throttle hand stops moving, you're doing it wrong. You should be adjusting the range of throttle motion fore or aft depending on whether you need to move the velocity vector up or down. Failure to keep the throttle moving will likely result in getting behind the aircraft, a bad situation. For the purposes of this lesson, a good landing is anything close to the numbers.
Uh-oh. I hate the way he explains it, bro. Like, it's actually terrible. I've never landed like this, right? Like, this slow and steady wins the race. I fucking hate landing like this. It's so fucking annoying. Get that shit down on the ground. Just do it. You know what I mean?
Welcome to your first day of training. In general, you will have 2 lessons per day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, with the occasional night flight thrown in for the experience. In this morning's lesson, we're going to practice a modified version of the landing pattern for the Hornet. Be advised that this is not the typical landing procedure when returning from a mission, but is rather the recovery procedure from a missed landing attempt on the carrier, whether from being told to go around, wave off, or touching down on the deck but missing the arresting wires, bolter. For today's training, Vatsiani has been closed to traffic so we can focus on just flying a proper pattern, so no radio calls will be required. Go ahead and get the aircraft started and then taxi to the right and approach the active runway. Stop just before the runway threshold for further instructions.
I have to wait till the engine started or the screens won't turn on.
Roll left, roll left.
Flight controls.
Flight controls. Flight controls.
Doctor Livesey.
How do I get the probe out? Oh.
Okay, stop here. Before we get started, we need to be able to gauge our distance from the ground very accurately. So let's change our altimeter to radar mode by flipping the switch just below the UFC from Barrow to RDR. Understand that this is still just a rough estimate, as the ground will be rolling up and down below you, but we need AGL references, and the radar altimeter is the only way to do that. The sequence of events for the pattern will be as follows. Take off from the runway as we did in the last lesson using full mill power. This simulates using full thrust to recover from a failed carrier landing attempt. Climb to an altitude of 600 foot AGL and bring your airspeed to around 350 knots. At about a mile from the airfield, reduce throttle to idle and execute a steep turn to the left. Keep the velocity. You're about a mile from the runway, so go ahead and reduce throttle to idle and execute a steep left turn, pulling back sharply on the stick and doing your best to keep the velocity vector lined up with the horizon. You're aiming for about 3 Gs followed by a gradual reduction. You should be about halfway through your turn at this point. Don't forget to lower your flaps and landing gear once your airspeed is below 250 knots. Level out at a heading of 310 and get your aircraft stabilized with the velocity vector on the horizon.
A little close, I think.
You're a little left of the optimal downwind trajectory. Adjust to the right until you're about a mile from the runway. Keep your velocity vector on the horizon with pitch trim and bring the E-bracket down to it with throttle adjustments. Try to keep the aircraft looking good. You're within the downwind corridor, so focus on keeping the velocity vector on the horizon with pitch trim and bringing the E-bracket down to it with throttle. Try to stay around 600 feet AGL and maintain a heading at about this point in a carrier landing. You'd be able to see the stern of the ship. This is where you would normally begin a 30-degree descending turn to the left, but if you need a bit more wiggle room, feel free to continue further out before you begin. Once you start turning, add some power to compensate for the loss of lift and try to keep the velocity vector just below the horizon. Remember that the stick should only be used for roll adjustments. Pitch is controlled with the throttle during landing. Keep your eyes fixed on the HUD for the first 90 degrees of the turn to ensure you're establishing a good turn. After 90 degrees, you can take a quick peek at the runway to judge your approach. Good job. If you'd like to keep practicing, add full afterburner and repeat the process. Otherwise, exit the next appropriate taxiway to end the lesson. Hope you got some good practice out there. Go ahead and taxi back to parking spot 1 and shut down the aircraft. The lesson will end when you're parked in the correct spot and the aircraft is off.
Not sure why the alarm is going.
That's it for this lesson. See you back here after lunch for the next one. Good job.
That's bitter.
Now that you know how to take off and land safely, we need to learn how to get where we're going in between. Most real-world missions will have preloaded waypoints to guide you, but for the remainder of this section of the course, we're going to practice our data entry skills by manually entering waypoints into the navigation system. This serves a twofold purpose. First, it forces us to become familiar with the data entry process and various GPS coordinate formats, and second, it gets us ready for the true purpose of GPS data entry, precision bombing. Of course, we're not quite ready to start dropping bombs just yet, so we'll have to settle for flying between waypoints. For this afternoon's flight, we're going to go visit the ground attack training range so you can become familiar with the area. We're obviously not going to get much accomplished cold and dark, so go ahead and get the aircraft started up and we'll learn how to enter waypoints.
Roll left, roll left. Flight control. Flight control.
I was too fast on it.
Was a simple guy, born in the village, didn't choose no fly. Started rocket Vostok, brought him to the stars. We are his descendants, colonizing Mars.
Yura Gagarin, the legend from USSR. Yura Gagarin, you are the Russian superstar. Yura Gagarin, the solid spaceman #1. Yura Gagarin, you are the only one.
Okay, let's get started with some data entry. I find that it's easiest to use the right MDI for data entry because all the buttons you'll use the most are located close together, but it's up to you. Do what you're most comfortable with. Also, you should be getting pretty familiar with the cockpit by this point, so I won't be hand-holding you with individual button presses anymore. You'll remember where everything is a lot better if you have to look for it yourself. In order to let me know that you've moved on to the next step, I'll ask you to press the IP push button in the top left of the UFC panel to signal me that you've completed the last instruction provided and I can move on to the next step. Let's test that out now by pressing the IP button. Perfect. The first thing we need to do is get to the data page of the HSI. Go ahead and open up the HSI on one of the MDIs and then press the push button for data. This is where most of the work is going to be done today. As you can see, there are a set of coordinates already listed on the screen. This is the current location of the aircraft, which is listed as waypoint 0 by default. Although it isn't strictly required, we're going to go ahead and get into the habit of adding waypoints to sequence 1 prior to entering the actual coordinates. This way we won't forget to do it later, which would make coupling the autopilot to the navigation impossible. Let's start by pressing the SEQUFC push button. Then on the UFC menu press the INS push button, enter a value of 1 on the number pad, then press the enter key.
Forever, you gave us a smile. Solid rocket Vostok, brought him to the stars. We are his descendants, listening to her bass.
Yura Gagarin, the legend from USSR.
Give me a second, guys. Front immediately gets open. Like the little the little fan pushing out. That air is hot. I'm actually really tired. I slept for like 3 hours max. I'm so bad at going to bed early, dude. It fucking sucks. And I try. I fucking try. Marvin knows. When did I say goodnight? Like 11? It ended up being 2 before I fell asleep. Oh, this is like a massive fry bag. It's gonna work this one. Totally fucked that. The reap. But it's a mod, right? The VR? Is the mod just bad?
Alright, now that we've added waypoint 1 to the sequence, we need to actually put coordinates in. There are 4 types of coordinate systems we'll be learning today: lat long normal, lat long precise, lat long decimal, and finally MGRS. The first of these is the simplest, but also the least accurate. Lat long normal is great for general navigation waypoints that don't require pinpoint precision. They consist of a simple 6-digit number that provides latitude and longitude in
84
values
as
of
well
degrees,
is more than that,
minutes,
bro.
and seconds. For example, our first waypoint is North 41 40 43 East 45 29 06 2,451 feet. The first letter of each line indicates the hemisphere of that 6-digit coordinate. We're in the north and east hemispheres, or northeast hemisphere. The first pair of numbers tells you what degree of latitude or longitude you're at. The next pair are the minutes and the last pair are seconds. What does that mean to you in the cockpit? Not much, honestly, but that's how maps work. The last line is the elevation at those coordinates in feet, which isn't really required for navigation, but is critical when dropping ordnance for precision strikes, so we're going to get in the habit of entering that information every time we deal with GPS. The aircraft likely started in decimal mode, so we're going to have to switch that before entering the code. Press the A, C button to bring up the configuration menu. Then if you see lat long decimal in the bottom right, press it so it changes to lat long seconds. Then go back to the waypoint screen. To enter the first waypoint, first make sure you're on the correct waypoint by pressing the up and down arrows to select waypoint 1. Then press the UFC push button.
AC?
Move over
What
to
the
the
fuck?
UFC menu and press the POSN button. To enter the coordinates, you first need to tell the UFC which hemisphere you're entering, and the 2, 4, 6, and 8 buttons have direction indicators on them that you press before entering the 6-digit coordinates. So to enter the first line, you press 2 for north, then type out 414053 and press the enter key.
I don't even see the position button. Ground speed, target, time on target, INS. I don't know what this is. There is no position button. I was on the wrong one.
Now press 6 for east and enter the appropriate 6 digits for that coordinate, 452906, and press enter. Lastly, enter the elevation information by pressing the ELEV button, typing in the value provided, 2451, verifying that you're using the correct unit of measurement, feet, and pressing enter to store the waypoint. Not too complicated, but also not very useful for anything but navigation. If we're going to drop bombs using GPS, we're going to need something quite a bit more precise, and this is where the first of the precise modes comes in. To use this, we need to put the system in the correct mode by pressing the precise. As you can see, the simpler coordinates we were looking at a minute ago just got a bit more complex, but for a good reason. This allows us to get pinpoint accuracy by splitting up the normal coordinates, which cover a much larger area, into smaller chunks by using decimals. The process for entering these is exactly the same as before, except for one additional step, but before we can get to that we need to remember to add waypoint 2 as part of the sequence, so press SEQUFC, INS, 2, enter. Then be sure to advance the system to waypoint 2 with the up arrow. Once that's done, refer to the mission briefing in the menu or the mission card in your kneeboard to get the coordinates for waypoint 2. Then go ahead and press the UFC button and enter the part of the north coordinate you know how to do, everything before the decimal point and press enter.
My kneeboard's empty. Never mind. $41, $52, $10.90. Couldn't fully input that. Oh, everything before.
All that's left now is the remaining decimal. For more precise modes like this, which include decimal space, the decimal values are entered on a separate screen from the main coordinates. So for this example, we typed in N415210 and pressed the enter key, which brought up the HDTH page. Simply type in 90 and press enter again to complete the entry. An easy way to remember this is to replace the enter with dot or decimal in your head while typing the coordinate out. The waypoint display should now show the full coordinate information for the first line, but still 0 for the second. Go ahead and type in the second coordinate the same way as you did the first, then be sure to add the elevation information in the correct unit of measurement. If you entered everything correctly, your readout should now be N4152 10.90, E4523 11.53, 5,408 feet. If it isn't, give it another shot by repeating the steps and paying a little more attention to detail. As before, let's add waypoint 3 to the sequence, then advance to waypoint 3 with the up arrow. Once that's done, switch back to the A, C page and toggle back to lat long decimal so we can try that version. This works pretty much the same way, except that it's a bit shorter and has more digits behind the decimal. Be advised that any single number in what is supposed to be a pair of digits should be entered with a 0 before it, so in this case you should be typing in North 4206 and then enter. And as before, enter the decimal portion. This time it's 3 digits instead of just 2. Once that's done, repeat the process for the east coordinate, then enter the elevation as usual. Okay, now for the weird one. MGRS uses a grid system to set coordinates, and it has a unique
depends on your
user
VR.
interface to make it work.
Depends on your VR. My VR has this is a Quest 3. It has seamless multitasking. So I open a browser, and then I click on the browser at the top, or at the bottom actually, and I just drag it to the side. And then I go back in game, and now my chat's like right there. If you can't do that, if you don't have a Quest You can use OVR Toolkit, which requires Steam VR though, so it needs to be a Steam VR thing. It needs to be running for OVR Toolkit to work. With that, a little bit more hoops, but you can basically do the same thing, as in like pop out your chat in the browser window and then drag the browser window somewhere in the environment. So basically, you can see it because I'm pretty sure. Oh, shit, my chat doesn't. Okay, now my chat's in the middle. Fuck's sake. That's the downside, because I took it off my head. But then I just did this, and now it's back where it was. Actually, let me just show you. I have Quest 3. You can't see the chat. Okay, let me show. No, I can't show you because it's inside of the Quest itself. Okay, so when you press that button, right, you open your settings. When you press your Quest 3, open your Quest 3 settings. Yeah, you just do browser. Oh, you just open your browser. I have. Where did it go? Okay, it's still there. You just open that. You can resize it if you like hover over slightly next to the thing. You can like resize it, right? And then there's two bars below it. One says browser with a minimize and X, but the bottom bar of that, if you just hold that, you can move it around. You can move that box like anywhere you want, and then you can like zoom it out or zoom it back in. So that's like really big now all of a sudden. Oh. And then you just leave it there. I have no idea. It should work on everything, right? Because it's just inside the thing. The TikTok won't see your chat though, because like even now, I'm streaming DCS from the PC, right? I'm connected to the PC. Actually, I'm connected via Wi-Fi because it's Steam linked, but I still have a wire in for the power. So people on the stream will never be able to see your chat, but you can, so you can respond to them at least. But because I am capturing DCS itself and not the headset, no one can see the chat except for me, right? But yeah, you just open the settings menu, like with your meta button or whatever the fuck it's called. Click on browser. It'll open the browser page, right? You really do want to like, again, it's like this much next to the corner of the screen. You'll get like a white little outline. If it's just on the corner, you can like outline it. Make it bigger or smaller. I recommend making it smaller for obvious reasons. And then I have two lines. One line, if you hover over it, it'll say browser. The other line, if you hover over it, it'll say nothing. And then right next to that is a dot with the meta button. Ignore the dot. Just click on the bottom bar and hold the trigger, and then you can move it around. Right? And then to get back in the game, because the game is now gray, you just, while not looking at anything, press the trigger. And the game is back in view, but your chat window is still there. Very handy, obviously.
Waypoint 4 set up as part of the sequence and advance to waypoint 4 so we can try this out.
What? MGRS uses a grid system. What the fuck? Okay. So, you.
Press the UFC push button on the MDI, then press the grid option from the UFC menu. This will bring up a screen with, of all things, a big grid. At the center of this display will be the grid where your aircraft is located. You can navigate this screen by using the direction push buttons to find the desired grid square. We're looking for grid square M, which isn't where our aircraft is located, so we need to move it. Tap the I/P button to continue. Using the throttle control designator, either using the appropriate keybinds or the controls on your stick, move the cursor on the display until it's over the square, then press the TDC select button. Once you're back on the coordinate screen, type out the 10-digit coordinates provided and press enter. Ignore the space between the 5-digit blocks. They're placed there for readability. You enter all 10 digits on the same screen.
What?
Note that if you're unable to enter all 10 digits, the system is not in precise mode. Be sure that's boxed before entering the coordinates.
It is boxed. Once you're back on the coordinate screen, type out the 10-digit coordinates provided and press enter. What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just in here? 1, 2, 0, 4, 9, 0, 4, 9, 2, 9, 3, 1, 2, 2, 9, 3, 1, 2. Enter.
Your display should now read as follows. North 4148.9349, East 4450.6444, 38 TMM 87049293120, 0 feet. Go ahead and enter the elevation information as usual, and this waypoint is finished.
1933. Elevation 1933. Enter.
Almost ready to fly now. We need one more waypoint to get us back to the airfield, and you're going to enter that one in all by yourself. You can find the information in the mission briefing or kneeboard. I will give you a few hints, though. Remember sequencing. Which waypoint is this? Is precise required for this format? Which lat long setting on the A C page is required for this format?
No.
Kübelwagen GTI.
4138. What? Oh shit. North. 4138. 14. Decimal 68. 45. 1. 8. Decimal 36. 1524 feet.
Okay, hopefully you got that right. We'll find out if you make it back to the airfield without getting lost. Press the HSI push button to go back to the HSI, then be sure to box the waypoint button. Set waypoint 1 as the active and activate sequence 1. Once that's done, go ahead and taxi to the active runway and take off. Climb to an altitude of 10,000 feet and maintain a speed no greater than 350 knots. After that, it's up to you to get yourself back to the airfield. Good luck.
Kübelwagen GTI. Hey Captain, habt ihr noch eine Koje für mich frei?
Jo, du Lechmatrose, schwing dein Arsch an Deck. Kann losgehen. Willkommen auf der Raven, das U-Boot mit der Base Machine, atombetriebene Soundanlage, mit der wir durch die Meere ziehen. Unter Wasser, harte Wasserjagd auf Red Oktoberfest, Mittelmeer-Akustik, Körperschall, Torpedo, Bombentest. Bis zu dezenten Schaft bewaffnet, so etwas habt ihr noch nicht gesehen. Wenn das U-Boot Abriss macht, geht der rechte Skala bis auf 10. Schaft bewaffnet, so etwas habt ihr noch nicht gesehen. Wenn das U-Boot Abriss macht, geht der rechte Skala Raven.
The only downside is when I look left, it's very much in the way sometimes. Yo, thank you so much for the sub, dude. Hopefully it worked then. I much appreciate your patronage, good sir. And or madam. I forgot what height it was. Nice. Glad to hear it. It's very handy, right? For obvious reasons. God. My eyes hurt in the quest though. After like a while, my eyeball starts hurting. Very annoying. I've only had it since 2 days, so I'm trying to get used to it. Garage Clay, best emote on Twitch. I might be a little bit of a Fallout fanboy. Tell. Shouldn't we be turning by now?
Welcome to the training area. You're going to spend quite a few lessons over here practicing your air-to-ground skills, so take a look around and get familiar with the landscape.
Sorry.
Waypoints 2 and 3 will take us straight over the primary range, then we'll head toward waypoint 4 to line up with the runway at Vaziani.
Very flat. I like flat. I never clicked auto. Bollocks. I keep forgetting to press auto. If I don't press auto, it doesn't auto waypoint. For obvious reasons. God, I love this game, dude. This and iRacing, probably the best games I've played in VR. I'm broke now though, so I can't really play iRacing. I still don't know why my INS is freaking out. It's just doing that. I'm trying to ignore it. We don't need it, it's fine. DJ, блядь, man. Wait, why did it go back to 0? Oh my fucking god. Ugh. That's a weird road on a flat pieces of land. That road ends right before it reaches the village. The fuck?
So the last time you guys saw an EK50 video was about a month ago where we showed off the EK50
So
successfully in test firing and cycling multiple rounds.
my air-to-ground training area is right next to 2 villages.
Let's talk about the 50.
That seems unsafe. Have these people met me? Bro, I'm gonna bomb the village at some point. It's just gonna happen.
This marks the eastern boundary of the active range. We'll cross directly overhead and then turn south toward the airfield.
Oh, excuse me, wow. It's getting late for me. I had a full day work. Boom bow, biff bow.
And that's the range. Bet you're looking forward to dropping some ordnance. While we head back to the airfield, let's talk about the full Case 1 recovery procedure. What we practiced this morning was the bolter/wave-off procedure for landing on the carrier, which is actually part of the tail end of the Case 1 recovery when a pilot doesn't make the landing. We did it that way because it allowed you to practice the hardest part of the pattern over and over without having to leave the airfield area and come back. While you'll likely be doing wave-offs and bolters a lot once we do it for real, we need to learn the proper procedure to execute a carrier landing. For the remainder of this course, forget that you ever heard the words straight in landing. The last part of an approach to the carrier requires you to perform an initial pass to the right of the ship to confirm the deck isn't fouled before conducting your braking turn to the left and entering the downwind. We're going to simulate that for every landing from now on so that it's second nature by the time we relocate to the Stennis for carrier quals. Once we reach waypoint 4 and begin our descent toward the runway, we'll do a quick rundown of the procedure and you'll give it a shot as we go in for the landing.
This is what we were practicing last night, or yesterday actually, with night 1. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot his YouTube name, or Twitch name. I'm cranky, I think?
Let's quickly go over the procedure for the Case 1 recovery, as it isn't very different from what you practiced this morning. As you approach the airfield, slow and maintain 350 knots, descend to 800 feet AGL and line yourself to the right of the runway far enough that you can look down and verify that the runway is clear. After that, it's pretty much the same as what you did earlier. Once you're past the runway and begin your turn, allow yourself to descend down to about 600 feet and then do what you did before. Don't forget to switch back to the radar altimeter to get your AGL altitude. Get us on the ground and back to parking spot 1, then shut down the aircraft and we'll be done for the day.
Mirrors are terrible quality, right? Holy fuck. Ma, see? Oh, fuck. I wasn't paying attention at all. Shit.
Altitude. Altitude.
You should be about halfway through your turn at this point. Don't forget to lower your flaps and landing gear once your airspeed is below 250 knots. Level out at a heading of 310 and get your aircraft stabilized with the velocity vector on the horizon. You're a little left of the optimal downwind trajectory. Looking good.
Every time.
You're within the downwind corridor, so focus on keeping the velocity vector on the horizon with pitch trim and bringing the E-bracket down to it with throttle. Try to stay around 600 feet AGL and maintain a heading of 310. Okay, begin your turn toward the runway when you're ready. Remember to add power and wait at least 90 degrees before looking at the runway. Start visually lining up with the runway and get the velocity vector and E-bracket on the numbers. Remember that you have to keep that throttle moving to stay ahead of the aircraft.
Terrible fucking turn. Holy shit.
You would have missed the carrier on that one. You can give that another shot if you'd like, or exit the runway to end the lesson.
Oops. No!
DJ with the jet, that I need to pump it up. I got Russian girls left and Polish girls right.
Head back to parking spot 1 and shut down the aircraft. Alright, let's go get some dinner and then we have a night flight to complete.
Did that guy just say night flight? Oh god. Oh god. I don't want to do a night flight. What time is it? Fine, fuck, we'll do the night flight and it'll be the last one now. Oh god, they weren't kidding. Bro, I can't even see the fucking lights.
You can feel free to go through the startup sequence while I go through the spiel for this mission. You'll need the flashlight to see the switches, so activate it using the appropriate key bind.
Bro, literally a flashlight. What the fuck?
Left Alt L. Flying from waypoint to waypoint is generally the best way to get from one place to another, but it isn't the only way, and there are certain situations where understanding and being able to use radio navigation can make things easier, and in some situations be critical to mission success. For this flight, we're going to learn about the two forms of radio navigation equipped on the Hornet, TACAN and ADF. The automatic direction.
That's weird.
Борис, колдополис, Дмитрий, Факс, Владимир is getting better. Slavic lives matter. Борис, колдополис, Дмитрий, Факс, Владимир is getting better. Slavic lives matter. Борис, колдополис, Дмитрий, Факс, Владимир is getting better. Slavic lives matter. Борис, колдополис, Дмитрий, Факс, Владимир is getting better. Slavic lives matter. Борис, колдополис, колдополис is getting better. Slavic lives matter. Борис, колдополис is getting better. lives matter.
It's not working for me.
Finder, or ADF, is a radio detector that displays the direction from the aircraft to a radio source, and that's it. There is no additional information, so it has a very limited use case. Our first destination will be crossing a VOR station, which the Hornet will pick up in this mode. The other form is the TACAN, or Tactical Air Navigation.
Why do you think
which
I'm trying
also
to get into my
provides
jet and
direction
run
to the
away?
station, but also gives you the distance in nautical miles to that station.
Okay, stop talking, dude. Like, the flashlight doesn't work.
Far more
That's just me? Oh, you can actually see it on the screen because I brightened it up. I cannot see any of the buttons, bro. Now I can barely see like one of the knobs. I can't see shit. Apparently, I can turn a flashlight on, but that's not working.
useful, as it allows us to get fairly precise position location based on our bearing from the station and the provided distance. This flight will be flown solely with the aid of radio navigation to get you used to using those instruments. Once the aircraft is started up, we'll get the radio aid set up.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. Oh, wait. Wait, what the fuck is this? Why is it over here? How the fuck? How do I center it? Oh, it's my mouse. Oh! That makes sense. Dance, dance, dance! Well, you have to turn the power on first, right? Oh, that's why it wasn't showing up, because I hadn't moved the mouse yet. So if I now do this, hey, figured it out. Let's do a proper start. Wait till that's his 30. Was it?
Roll left, roll left. Flight controls. Flight controls.
That's the important one. Sit at the ground, and then eventually this one here, the standard hitting. Otherwise, you will fucking have a hell of a hard time getting navigation and to work. And this will start counting down. There we go. That needs to say okay before you can set this to nav or IFA. Super important. if we're going to win this one. That's good. Okay, now that says okay, so we can set that to IFA. Working brake.
Now that we're all started up, be sure you've set your cockpit lighting appropriately for night conditions, especially the console and instrument panels, as they'll be impossible to see in the dark. The HUD is also extremely bright at full power at night, so adjust it with the brightness knob until it's comfortable to look at. Our first destination will be a VR station, which we'll fly over to demonstrate approaching and crossing a radio source and what that looks like on the HSI. The first thing we need to do is get the frequency for the station entered into the radio. Find the COM1 channel select knob on the left side of the UFC just under the numbered keys and rotate it using the mouse wheel until the display reads M for manual. Type in 113.600 and press ENT to input the frequency into the radio. You'll know you have the correct frequency because a Morse code signal will begin coming in over the radio. This is the signal assigned to the VR station we'll be flying over, so as long as you hear it, you know you're good. However, you may not hear it yet because you are on the ground and the VR is far away and it may be masked by the landscape. Find the ADF switch just to the left of the number keys on the UFC and switch it to COM1 with a right mouse click. This will send the information to the HSI so the station appears on the display once we're within range. Once the VR signal is intercepted, it will appear on the HSI as an empty circle at approximately 270 degrees. Keep that in mind because we'll be looking for that once we're in the air. Tap I/P to continue. Okay, now that we have our first destination sorted, let's get the TACAN set up. After we fly over the VR station using the ADF, we're going to head over to Batumi to practice the instrument approach to an airfield. I'll give you detailed instructions after we pass over the VR station, but go ahead and enter the TACAN code for Batumi, 16X, and don't forget to turn the TACAN on. After that, press the TCN push button on the HSI to select it as the active signal. You won't be able to use it as intended later on if you forget that part. We're all set for the flight. Go ahead and taxi to the runway while I go over how to get to the VR station. Don't forget to turn on your landing/taxi lights using the switch just down and to the left of the flap switch. To get within range of our first destination, you'll turn to a heading of 270 after takeoff and continue until the HSI picks up the station.
That's bright.
You'll know this has happened when an empty circle appears outside the heading wheel. Once that happens, turn toward the signal until the circle is at the top of the HSI and follow it until told otherwise. One thing to remember, though, is that radio signals work on line of sight, so if something big is in the way, like a mountain, you may lose the signal until the obstruction is out of the way. Don't panic. Just keep on flying until the signal comes back. This will be a relatively long flight, so feel free to make extensive use of the autopilot to reduce your workload and focus on the instruments. The heading, HSEL, and altitude, vault, functions are the options you should be using, as there are no waypoints for this flight. You can adjust the selected heading with the HDG switch just below the UFC. You can hold the switch left or right until it's on the proper heading, or you can also hold it down for a couple of seconds and the UFC menu will show an HSEL option, at which point you can just type the heading you want with the number pads and press enter. Go ahead and get yourself in the air, turn to a heading of 270 and climb to an altitude of 10,000 feet. You're free to choose your own airspeed, but keep an eye on your fuel consumption. If you're using Afterburner the whole flight, you might not have enough fuel to get back. I'll provide further instructions as you approach the door station. Be patient and watch the HSI and everything will be fine.
This all looks really fucking cool in VR, I'm not gonna lie, dude. And suddenly I can't see shit no more. Did I fuck up? I'm a little confused. Shouldn't I have picked it up by now? did not pick anything up. Weird. I ain't picking up jack shit. I could hear it for just a split second. I can hear the Morse code, but that doesn't really help, does it? Now what? I don't see a circle at all. Whatever. It's for tomorrow. My eyes are starting to hurt and I'm getting tired. Flashed by my own web browser. Dude, I took it off and all of a sudden it was like, oh fuck, because I was in night vision mode, bro. What the fuck? My eyes were like literally in night vision mode. What the hell? It's absolutely nuts how realistic a VR makes it, bro. Hit me in the face with her tail. I had my mouth open, you fuck. Ah. It looks really cool in VR too, man. Like, oh my god, so cool. But yeah, apparently I fucked up somehow because I didn't see no fucking. I didn't see no circle. I didn't see shit. You wanna hear something really weird? Have you ever in your life gone on holiday with like a bus? You know, like to Spain or some shit? Where you're on the bus for like, you know, 24 fucking hours and like the whole, when I'm in that cockpit, right? And it's like that type of atmosphere, like night with the green, like the little fucking night lights on and shit. Bro, it's so fucking similar, bro. Like my parents and I, we used to go to Spain in like tour bus. Well, it's not a tour bus, but like a travel bus, right? And I swear to God, that shit gives me the exact same vibe as back then. Like I could literally just like, you know, like I don't know why, bro, but it's like the sound of the jet through the helmet, like just of the engine, and like the little lights, and just like looking out into the darkness. It's 1-1 the same feeling for me, bro. Like, it's great. I actually really fucking love that. Like, it's really fucking cool. It's like a video game is making me feel stuff that I felt when I was like 8. You know what I mean? 32 fucking years ago. It's kinda nuts. But I ain't 8 no more. In fact, I am 40. And I'm an old man. An old man went to work today, so now he's tired of shit. Oh, and that thing on my face isn't helping. So, almost made it 2 hours though, at least. Tomorrow is gonna be a lot longer, and I don't have to work next week until Thursday, so absolutely fantastic. We got time to learn the plane, boys. You best believe that shit, son. And hopefully this time I won't just like get lost. You know? Yes. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't lost, I was near the airfield, but I couldn't find... I heard the Morse code, but not clear enough, and nothing showed up on the HSI, so I don't know what the fuck this guy was talking about with the empty circle, but we'll try again tomorrow. Thank you all so much for hanging out, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.